Even as a child, the heroine lost both parents. When she was lonely, she found unexpected peace in fantasy novels. The girl loved it when the main characters of these stories got into absurd accidents, after which they found themselves in new unfamiliar places. That day, the girl was chatting with her friend about a character who died in a bus accident and moved to another dimension. While the girls were chatting merrily, the squeal of wheels was heard. The bus overturned, breaking the glass into thousands of small pieces. The girl never thought that she herself would get into a bus accident. There were many schoolchildren lying on the cold ground, badly injured. The brunette couldn't believe that she would die like this. The girl's face was covered with many abrasions. Every minute it became harder and harder for her to breathe. The brunette realized that her life did not have much meaning and was losing all meaning for her. The girl sincerely hoped that her friend Hee-young would survive. The girl realized that Hee-young was always there when she was lonely. The brunette, with the last of her strength, reached out to her best friend's hand. She began to pray that her dear friend would be blessed with eternal happiness. The brunette realized that such a voice could only exist in a fairy tale world. The girl assumed that she died and went to heaven. And when I woke up, I found myself on the battlefield. There was no fear in the brunette's eyes, and there was only a crazy smile on her face. The loud clanging of swords could be heard very close by. The brunette stood up and looked around properly. The girl saw in front of her a crowd of people armed with swords and spears. A strong wind fluttered blood-red flags. The brunette couldn't figure out where she was. The girl was sure that a few moments ago she was lying in front of an overturned bus. With a shout, one of the warriors swung a huge saber. Covering her face with her hands, the brunette asked the stranger to move away from her. As soon as the girl opened it, she saw that the formidable sword was burning with a blue flame. The brunette was amazed that the sword suddenly melted. The girl looked with surprise and admiration at her hands, where the blue flame was burning. The heroine could not believe that the whole matter was in her hands. Blue flames burned around her. With her superpower, she quickly destroyed enemies. The commander-in-chief explained that this was enough. The guy ordered all the soldiers to lower their weapons. Bowing, the blonde asked for forgiveness for their insolence. The red cloak fluttered behind the blonde man's back. The commander-in-chief explained that his soldiers should be afraid of strangers. The guy's blue eyes shone, reflecting the light of the sun, whose rays broke through the dark clouds. Without letting go of her hand, the girl staggered back. The brunette asked who the guy was. The blonde introduced himself as Eric Krovia. The guy explained that everyone addressed him as a prince abandoned on the battlefield, because he had nowhere to go. The soldiers shuddered sharply. The prince explained that he was on the verge of death after being ambushed, while the stranger's magic scared them and forced them to run away. The blonde thanked the girl for saving his life. Eric explained that he would not question her about her background or identity. The blonde offered the heroine a safe place where she could stay for a while. As soon as the guy approached, she suddenly shuddered. Piercing the girl with his blue eyes, he asked why she didn't go with him. The blonde extended his hand, offering to make a similar deal. Fortunately, the girl accepted the offer. But unfortunately, the Empire was in no hurry to accept the stranger. High-ranking people were against the fact that the guy brought an unknown person to the palace. The aristocracy did not understand what it all meant. The guy explained that it was his guest of honor. Eric asked everyone to address her with respect. The girl realized that despite her divine powers, she was a high school student who traveled alone to another dimension. The brunette understood that she needed someone who could vouch for her. The girl understood perfectly well that Eric needed her strength. From that fateful day, the brunette became a sword and led the Krovian Empire to victory. Thanks to her, Eric was able to inherit the throne. In gratitude, the guy awarded her the title of Count, despite the fact that she was a woman of unknown origin. At first, the aristocracy strongly resisted, but after the girl conquered the kingdom's hostile empire, such conversations gradually faded away. Events move forward 10 years to the ballroom of the Krovian Imperial Palace. The aristocracy was in a luxurious hall. Everything sparkled with purity and richness. The hall was huge despite the small number of people. The arrival of Her Grace Princess Serena Artis was announced. After this announcement, people turned with admiration to behold her ladyship. Luxurious hair fluttered with every step she took. The girl was wearing a blood-red jacket with dark sleeves and legs. After Serena's appearance, she was bombarded with many compliments. The guests were delighted with her appearance. With shining eyes, Serena thanked her for the compliments. Turning to the girl, Eric noticed that his goddess had already arrived. The blonde raised his glass of wine with a radiant smile. His dishes were covered with gold, and a double-headed eagle shone on his chest. Siren snapped that she had already told her more than once to stop this nonsense about the goddess. Smiling, the guy noticed that she looked great with bleached hair. Serena coldly replied that the guy should save his compliments for his bride. Pointing her gaze at the angry girl, the blonde explained that she had been following her for a long time. The red-haired girl literally flared up with jealousy. The guy assured the blonde that there was nothing between them. The blonde informed Serena that it was simply a political alliance. Raising his glass, Eric announced that their banquet today was arranged to welcome the most honored guest from the kingdom of Arinia. Drops of wine splashed from the sudden movement. The blonde asked the guests to eat, drink, and be merry. Cheers of joy were heard throughout the hall. Siren recalled with disgust that the guy blackmailed with a raid on the kingdom and took their prince hostage. The girl noticed that her story was more like the truth. Gray eyes pierced the guy right through. The blonde asked where the guest of honor was. With surprise, the guy asked if she was really interested. Siren coldly replied that he knew the reason perfectly well. His Majesty announced that the prince would be in the palace building for some time. The guy said that he originally sent the guy to greet the aristocrats. Pointing his finger, the blonde replied that the guest of honor was in a small crowd. Eric asked his friend if she had seen that man next to the prince. The blonde noticed that the guy in the white shirt had white hair. Siren's heart sank as the girl was delighted by the beauty of the stranger. The girl realized that despite the fact that she was a character in a crazy fairy tale world, it seemed to come out of some other genre. Sighing heavily, Eric noticed that the guy's face was her type. The blonde asked again in surprise, as if denying what she had just said. Catching the guy's gaze, the girl asked to find a friend of someone who would not like such a face. Approaching the chosen one, the girl with copper hair took his hand with a sliding movement. The bride looked into the green eyes of her lover and reminded him that it was time for the first dance. The beautiful girl's name was Olivia, and she was the bride of Emperor Eric Crovian. A little embarrassed, the blonde asked his chosen one if she would really be his partner. Answering positively, the girl smiled. With some contempt, Siren looked at the couple in love, realizing that they had finally figured it out. Approaching the girl, the prince asked whether it seemed to her ladyship that the holiday was boring. Looking back, the girl saw a guy with a beautiful face. The blonde asked Serena if she would do him the honor of dancing together. The guy suddenly pulled out his hand in a snow-white glove. Very embarrassed, Serena explained that she was not a fan of dancing. With excitement, the prince suggested that she simply did not want to dance with him. Realizing that the blonde will not convince her even with his cute face, the girl's voice trembled greatly. But she still decided to extend her hand, accepting the invitation. Siren didn't understand what the guy was trying to do. A few moments later, the handsome man gently kissed her hand. A few moments later, someone addressed her ladyship. Making a deep bow, the guy dared to suggest that he could make the girl's heart beat even faster. Shaking her hand, the prince thanked her ladyship. Serena explained that the guy should have known that she wasn't very good at dancing. Soon the melody of violins filled the luxurious hall. The blonde was dancing with the guy. Only after some time, the girl dared to ask what the name of the guy with the cute face was. The handsome guy introduced himself as Ricardo Arino. The blonde asked to call him simply Rico. For a few moments, Siren hesitated greatly. The girl asked his name again. The blonde answered positively. With a strong jerk, the girl turned his head. The blonde asked what he meant when he said that he would make her heart beat faster. Siren realized that her plan had failed. Apparently, she accepted the invitation to the dance to ask him something. The blonde made sure that Ricardo was unaware of this. The girl confidently let go of her hand, realizing that she would not find out the information she needed. The blonde abruptly grabbed his new acquaintance's hand. The guy explained that he would like to return something to the girl. Ricardo clarified that he would really like to return her heart. There was slight embarrassment on the blonde's face. His blue eyes were directed at his new acquaintance. Siren heard these words and almost felt her heart beat. The girl understood that this was impossible because she did not have a heart. The blonde realized this fact only 2 years later, when she got into this fairy tale world. Memories of the war suddenly came back to the girl. At that moment, under the pretext that she wanted to finish what she started 2 years earlier, she searched this place where she found herself in this world. At that moment, Siren was furiously trying to dig the ground with her hands. The blonde was sure that she had lost her heart there. When the girl looked back, she seemed delirious. Returning to the military camp, she informed the prince that she had not found the loss. Crossing his arms, the guy suggested that it was best to keep this between them. Eric reminded her that there were already rumors about her demonic powers. The blonde explained that the public attitude towards the girl was at an all-time low. The girl unsuccessfully continued to search for her heart. She sat in the library for hours, trying to find at least some information. The girl could not understand why she could not forget about him and live a happy life as a knight. Siren has gone through countless battles without a single scratch. The girl survived wounds from which any other person would have died immediately in her place. Demon fire often helped her in battles. Her body was often badly wounded by arrows and swords. The hardened metal shone from her back. Serena didn't know if this would continue for the rest of her life. The girl was afraid that she could not cope with such absolute power. She could easily pull out arrows or spears with her back and move on. Siren was very afraid of being left alone in this unknown world for thousands of years. The blonde dreamed of returning to his world and becoming human again. The girl's consciousness was pierced by this mysterious and no less interesting phrase. Siren chose to quickly leave. The blonde couldn't understand what he did wrong. The guy walked quickly after his companion. The aristocracy assumed that the princess had taken a liking to the prince. The nobility was afraid that the girl would kill him. The blonde understood that no one knew her secret about her missing heart except herself and Eric. The girl could not understand how the prince of another kingdom could find out about this. As soon as the girl and the guy left the line of sight, she grabbed him by the neck and pressed him tightly against the wall. Siren furiously asked how he knew about her heart. The moon illuminated the guy's frightened face, Siren holding him tightly by the throat. She asked how he knew about the loss of her heart. In a trembling voice, the blonde asked her to wait and let him go. The same blue demonic flames that the girl had began to form on his hands. After giving him a strong slap in the face, Siren asked who he really was. The blonde realized that during her entire stay in this world, she had never met a person with the same powers as hers. The girl was sure that she felt his pulse. Serena understood that his heart, unlike hers, was in the right place. After this incident, Rico's heart was pounding wildly. The blonde couldn't understand where this guy came from. Holding her throat, the blonde asked her to calm down and promised to tell her everything. Ricardo explained that this happened to him 2 years ago. The guy with his faithful steed was on the lands of Arinia. A black horse with its head held high strode across the desert lands. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, the guy saw a heart that emitted a scarlet light. The blonde hesitantly extended his hand towards him. At that moment, the heart that was lying there began to beat wildly. After the touch, at the same instant he was swallowed up by a dark space, similar to a long tunnel. Raising his head in complete darkness, the guy wondered where he was. Ricardo assumed that he had fallen underground. When the blonde's eyes adjusted to the darkness, he recoiled in horror. In front of him was a huge creature that looked like a reptile. Ricardo realized that it was a dragon and assumed that it was no longer alive. The blonde's body was pierced by an underground cold. His body began to tremble violently. The guy realized that he needed to prepare some food in reserve. Ricardo didn't know how long he could hold out there. Above the guy's head there was a hole through which the rays of the sun barely passed, and he realized that he would need a lot of strength to get out of there. Swallowing nervously, the guy realized that the dragon was the only thing that could be eaten in the dungeon. Covered in cold sweat, he looked at the monster whose fangs were as tall as him. As soon as Ricardo tasted a small piece of flesh, his body began to tremble and his throat seemed to be on fire. With every second it became harder for the guy to breathe, and his consciousness plunged into darkness. And when he woke up, he didn't know how much time had passed. The blonde, when he came to his senses, felt as if a new incredible power was seething inside him. Blue flames played on his palms. Without wasting any time thinking, Ricardo began to climb up. Despite the fact that small ledges often broke off and returned him to the starting point, he did not give up. A week later, the blonde managed to get to the surface. Soon after the accident, the guy was able to return to Arinia. Several years later, rumors that the Countess had arrived in Arinia in search of something filled the entire kingdom. Furiously hitting the wall next to the guy, Siren asked what he wanted to say. The girl's face was distorted with anger and she asked what he had to do with her heart. The blonde asked how he knew that the heart belonged to her. With a smile, Ricardo asked if the girl knew anything about his homeland. A little confused, Siren remembered that the emblem of Arinia depicted a dragon. The guy noticed that she was right. Ricardo explained that it was believed that, as a symbol of their friendship, the founder of Arinia gave the dragon her heart in exchange for strength. Thanks to her ability, She was able to throw mountain-sized blocks with one finger. The founder could split mountains with one swing of her blade. Ricardo assumed that the new acquaintance must have heard this story. The blonde, squeezing her hand tightly, causing the wall to begin to crack, realized that this story was definitely about her powers. The girl heard this legend many times, but considered it pure fiction. Serena was surprised that there was a witness who saw this with her own eyes. This circumstance radically changed the matter. Ricardo had a smile on his face. Turning around, the girl realized that she needed to go to Arinia as quickly as possible. The blonde stopped the girl and explained that he wanted to ask her something. Smiling, Ricardo asked if she would do him the honor of entering into a marriage alliance with him. A small tremor ran through the girl's body. The blonde asked again hesitantly, poking a finger strongly into the guy's chest. She asked if he was really asking to become her sweet and submissive wife, in exchange for telling her about the secret of her heart. Gently taking her hand, Ricardo explained to her ladyship that her assumptions were not correct. He gently stroked his face with his hand. The blonde explained to Village that he just asked if she wanted to become his wife. The guy's face blossomed into a radiant smile in the blink of an eye. Quickly entering the room, the girl abruptly placed the latest issue of the newspaper in front of her ladyship. The article discussed that Countess Artes grabbed Prince Ricardo and took him to the balcony. The girl became furious, showing Serena the new episode. The blonde's name was Laura Ines. She was the daughter of a baron. The girl was surprised by what was written about her date with Prince Ricardo on the balcony. The Countess could not understand what kind of nonsense was written in the newspaper. With a smile on her face, the blonde asked how it could be a date if neither of them were engaged. Laura proposed to sue this newspaper, which was spreading gossip. The Baroness assured that the girl should use her great luck for good. Flushing with rage, Laura proposed that everyone be arrested and thrown into prison. The blonde smiled and explained that she shouldn't do this. The Countess claimed that she thought it was quite funny. Siren asked Laura to stop grumbling and answer her question. The blonde raised her cup, wanting to taste the freshly prepared tea. The Countess recalled that the girl was her only friend. Siren reminded the Baroness that she specialized in ancient history. Laura noticed that her friend was telling the truth. The Baroness asked why she suddenly became interested in the history of Arinia. Siren hesitated a bit, trying to come up with an answer. The girl replied that she wanted to get a little education. The Countess realized that she should not tell Laura about In Her Heart, or rather about its absence. The girl said that the legend said that the founder of the kingdom allegedly gave her heart to the dragon. Laura noticed that this was pure absurdity and old fairy tales. The Baroness claimed that she answered a question that interested her friend. The blonde asked to tell Siren what happened between her and the prince at the ball. Sighing heavily and putting the kettle on, the Countess explained that nothing noteworthy had happened. The girl admitted that the guy just proposed to her. Laura was shocked by this news and asked again. The Countess was still focused on the story that the guy told her. Smiling, Ricardo asked if she would have the honor of marrying him. The blonde asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about. She almost fell for his good looks. The prince claimed that his proposal would be very beneficial for the girl. Piercing the guy with gray-blue eyes, the blonde asked how this would be beneficial for her. Smiling, Ricardo assumed that she had just thought that she would run to Arinia first thing in the morning. The girl was already looking forward to getting her heart back. After the positive answer, a smile appeared on the guy's face. The prince explained that the girl would not be able to get there. Instantly turning gloomy, the girl asked why she couldn't do it. Rico insisted that she couldn't because of what happened in Arinia after he got out of that hole. The aristocracy was sincerely surprised that the prince returned alive. Many people thought this was something impossible. The dark-haired guy ordered everyone to shut up. The king turned to his son and explained that he was glad to see him return. The man extended his hand to his son. The brunette sharply pulled the guy by the arm. Raising the prince like a kitten, he ordered him to tell what happened to him. Fear shone in his blue eyes. Horrible experiments began to be carried out on the blonde. Scientists wanted to make soldiers as strong as him to fight against the strongest countess in the empire. Every day the guy was tortured, and this continued for years. He screamed in agony during most of these experiences, and his body alternated between heat and cold. The experiments were stopped only when the dragon's forces abandoned him, and the war ended in their defeat. Since then, the kingdom has become the queen's private domain. The woman's authority became absolutely unshakable. With a radiant smile, the guy explained that therefore even a high-ranking countess of the empire would not be able to freely enter those lands. Serena covered her face with her hands in despair. With a smile on his face, the blonde explained that everything could change if they got married. Ricardo stated that the girl would be able to become a member of the ruling family of Arinia and receive count status in the empire. The blonde noticed that he obviously lied about losing his dragon powers. Answering positively, the guy explained that this was the only way to stop the terrible experiments. Still smiling, Rico asked if the girl would accept his proposal. From that day on, the blonde couldn't let go of her thoughts to play along with him. Siren reassured herself that if necessary, she would always have time to make him pay for his crimes. After the news of the proposal, Laura froze like a stone. With crazy eyes, the blonde asked her friend if she knew where Ricardo was staying. The Baroness, hesitating a little, explained that judging by the stories, the prince was visiting the imperial palace. With a mad smile, Serena suggested that it was time for her to go there. The friend quickly called out to the girl. Was she really going to do this right now? With a smile on her face, the Countess explained that she was ready to accept his offer. Eric curiously asked his friend if she was really interested in that prince. The blonde replied that if the girl wants to marry him, she can do so. The guy was actively aiming at the cue ball. I want to knock down as many balls as possible. Sitting down on the pool table, the blonde remarked that she didn't expect her friend to approve. The prince explained that only a girl can decide her fate, and no one will dare to resist her will. After the guy hit the white ball with his cue, it quickly rolled the 8 ball into the hole. Remind Eric with a calm face that the marriage could always be annulled. The blonde explained that to a greater extent he would prefer to refuse. Serena wondered if he had just told her to get married. The guy explained that he knew that she could not be stopped. Eric admitted that he was very worried about his girlfriend. The guy reminded Serena that she herself told him that her emotions were becoming more and more confused every day. The prince admitted that this greatly increased his anxiety. Eric explained that at times the Countess's condition seemed dangerous to him. Taking precise aim at the ball, Serena noticed that he was right. The blonde admitted that he was worried about his friend, that she would never know what it means to love. Proudly placing the cue next to her, the blonde recalled that she had already said more than once that her brother did not know that she loved Ricardo. The guy asked her to admit that she liked that prince. The blonde asked if she would deny it. Siren rolled her eyes displeasedly without answering. Eric suggested that something could be taken as a positive answer. The blonde explained that he didn't want to know more. After straightening her bangs, Serena explained that she wanted to ask him for a favor. The girl warned that it could be difficult. Sighing heavily, the blonde asked her to tell her, and he promised that she would get everything she wanted. Siren whispered something in the guy's ear. Having knocked all the balls off the table, the prince asked if she had gone crazy. Eric explained that he could do anything except that. The girl explained that she would get a little if he sold it. The blonde asked furiously what just happened. Moving away from the angry guy, the blonde explained that she understood everything well. Events are transferred to Ricardo's piece. The blonde lived in the annex of the imperial palace. A girl in an olive-colored jacket and dust-colored pants stood at the huge, luxurious door. Serena realized that she had already arrived. The blonde wondered how and where to start the conversation. Ricardo opened the door with a creak. With a radiant smile, the guy greeted her ladyship. Serena coldly asked where all his servants were. The girl reminded them that they should open the doors. The blonde walked inside without hesitation. The prince admitted that he did not really like being surrounded by other people. Ricardo asked the girl if she didn't have the same preferences with their characteristics. A small fly flew in the silence. Siren carefully tracked the annoying insect. When a fly landed on the butler's cheek, the girl hit him in the face with all her might, trying to kill the insect. The blonde was horrified when the butler fell unconscious. In a trembling voice, the girl tried to explain that she simply wanted to kill the insect. With tears in her eyes, the maid noticed that her ladyship had hit the butler. The guy fell face down on an exquisite set of dishes. The shards of ceramic stuck into the guy's face. The servant tried his best to shake his colleague so that he would regain consciousness. Laughing, Siren asked if something like this had ever happened to the blonde. A little embarrassed, the prince explained that he had never been to people before losing his senses. The girl gracefully sat down on a luxurious sofa. Serena said that she came because they didn't finish speaking at the ball. Smiling, the prince noted that he perfectly understood her ladyship's position. Ricardo assumed that such an unexpected proposal confused the girl. The guy realized for what purposes she came. The blonde suggested that the girl draw up a contract and stipulate some conditions. The Countess was confused as to what conditions he wanted to offer her. With a smile on his face, the blonde explained that if she wanted to have a lover, he wouldn't mind. Ricardo promised to endure this so as not to disturb the Countess. Siren was amazed at what a bastard the guy perceived her to be. Without the slightest hesitation, the girl accepted the contract. The Countess explained that she would introduce some conditions if the prince offered her. Snatching the security paper and tearing it, Serena explained that this was not necessary. The girl promised to accept his proposal if he answered her question honestly. The Countess asked what benefit the guy had from marrying her. The girl asked what was the reason for his actions. The now blonde explained that it was easier for her to believe that he was conspiring with the queen to use her. Ricardo looked at her with a surprised look. The girl explained that instead of getting married, that made him like this. The girl hesitated and took his chin, looking intently into his eyes. The prince asked if the girl really wanted to take revenge on the queen. Serena explained that he was completely wrong. The blonde explained that he still remembers the first time he saw her. The girl asked in surprise whether their first meeting really did not take place at the ball. Ricardo explained that their first meeting did not take place at the ball. The prince recalled that this happened on the very day when the girl destroyed his kingdom. The kingdom of Arinia offered the dragon's heart to the sword of the empire as a symbol of their defeat. The king knelt, bowing and admitting defeat. Glancing at Eric, the girl asked if this was the jewel he was telling her about. The guy nodded humbly, looking at her with a smile. The winner didn't even look at the precious pink heart-shaped stone. The king was furious that he was giving the national treasure to the upstart countess. The girl noticed that the jewel was quite beautiful. The pink stone shimmered in her hands, reflecting the glare of the bright sun. The siren squeezed the dragon's heart tightly, breaking it into many small fragments. The guy looked at his girlfriend in surprise. He didn't understand what she was doing. People watched in horror as the national treasure turned into many small fragments. The king looked at what was happening with tears in his eyes. The man asked what the girl had done. The king explained that the dragon's heart was the purest jewel. Eric, very nervous, asked everyone to calm down. The blonde explained that the countess did not do this intentionally. At that moment, Ricardo realized that the reign of his kingdom had come to an end. A small smile appeared on the prince's face. Ricardo explained that the girl's intentions were not important to him. The blonde explained that thanks to her, the queen's laboratory, where he suffered endlessly, was destroyed. Many precious shards shone on the floor. Lowering her eyes in shame, the girl asked for forgiveness and explained that she did not mean to squeeze the jewel so tightly. Ricardo explained that at that moment he decided, no matter what happened, to return the heart of his savior. The prince recalled this moment with tears of happiness in his eyes. The guy was holding a large watch on a chain in his hands. The prince assumed that it was at that moment that he fell in love with Siren. Throwing a piercing look at Ricardo, the girl asked him not to make her laugh. The prince curiously asked why the countess took this as a joke. Ricardo explained that this was just one of the reasons why he wanted to help her. The prince explained that after she took him as a trophy, he wanted the girl to capture Arinia. Ricardo explained that he really wanted the countess to take her hidden heart. The blonde admitted that he really wanted the girl to trample every hope of the kingdom into dust under her feet. With shining eyes, Ricardo explained that he sincerely wanted to see it with his own eyes. Smiling, the countess explained that she liked this reason much more. Siren explained that from now on she would call him Rico. Blue eyes shone with joy. The blonde explained that she had one more condition. The guy was ready to listen to his beloved. Siren coldly asked him to never fall in love with her. The blonde explained that it would be too burdensome. Thick blonde hair fell over the back of the sofa. After hesitating a little, Rico nodded positively. The countess explained that she was looking forward to working with him. After shaking the girl's hand, Ricardo explained that it was mutual. The countess suggested starting to prepare for their wedding. A radiant smile shone on the prince's face. Sunbeams ran across the roofs. Small clouds floated slowly in the blue sky. Handing over the box, Serena explained that she wanted to use its contents. With a click, the box opened, revealing exquisite red velvet. Carefully taking the jewel with tweezers, the brunette noticed that the stone was the legendary eye of a dragon. The pink stone shone beautifully, showing all its beauty. Looking awkwardly at the blonde, the girl was surprised that the jewel was called that way. Events are moved back several hours. Approaching Serena, the girl reported that His Majesty had sent her a gift. In the message, the prince explained that thanks to her, he had difficulty removing the jewel from his crown. The blonde was surprised that after all the fuss, the chosen one still sent the jewel. Diamonds glittered on the snow-white box. The Countess realized that after she crushed the dragon's heart, the Aryans gave Eric another gem, the dragon's eye. The blonde asked the jeweler if he was done staring. The master was clearly surprised by this question. Siren asked him to make a ring that would not be conspicuous. In a trembling voice, the guy asked if she really wanted him to make a modest ring out of something so valuable. The jeweler explained that in all his work, he had never received such a request. With excitement, the brunette asked if the girl really didn't like the ring that he made for her last time. Answering negatively, the girl explained that it was not she who would wear the ring. Serena was sure that her chosen one would definitely be surprised. The jeweler curiously asked if the jewel would be an engagement gift. With his eyes shining with joy, Ricardo asked if the blonde had chosen something for herself. The girl was surprised that the chosen one came so early. Serena explained that she had already finished choosing. The Countess did not understand what the guy was doing next to her. The girl remembered that she ordered him to wait. The blonde wanted to make a surprise ring for her wedding. The jeweler quickly hid the stone in the box. With a smile on his face, Ricardo asked if the chosen one wanted to tell him something. Having looked at the guy, the Countess explained that everything suited him. Siren leaned over and examined the new robe. The Countess explained that she had decided to purchase all the men's accessories that were presented on the shelves. The jeweler's eyes shone when he heard that the girl was ready to purchase his entire collection. A little embarrassed, the guy explained that this was not necessary. The guy recalled that the most powerful countess in the empire was getting married. Smiling, the girl explained that it was the least she could do for her future husband. The blonde's heart began to pound in his chest. Serena sighed with relief and realized that the groom had not noticed anything. 2 bay horses, harnessed to a luxurious carriage, strode along the cobblestone street. The prince's heart was beating wildly in anticipation of such an important event. Ricardo thanked his chosen one for her generosity. The girl replied that there was no need to thank her. The blonde asked if he could pay by taking charge of organizing the wedding. Serena asked him why he had to do this. The blonde explained that Eric said to leave this trouble to the imperial palace. The guy explained that he desperately clung to this marriage. The prince explained that in addition to him, there was a second potential heir to the throne in Arinya. Ricardo explained that for the sake of the throne, he had to convince them that their union was not just for gaining power, but was born out of pure love. With dissatisfaction, Serena asked if that was really the case. The blonde asked if organizing a wedding wasn't enough for this. The girl noticed that if we do not take into account the royal family, then they will have to fight with the aristocrats of the empire. The countess was sure that all the parasites would bend over backwards to prevent their wedding. The girl had already noticed unkind looks on herself several times. Many people discussed the union of Countess Artes and a foreign prince. The aristocracy generally gossiped about what the girl would do with such power. Ricardo noticed that his lover's relationship with the aristocracy was far from ideal. The prince asked if the girl had a fragment of the dragon's heart left. The girl was stunned by such an unexpected question. But after a short pause, she nodded positively. The blonde suggested that they put pieces of the jewel into something together and send it to the nobles along with a letter of gratitude for their devotion to the empire. Serena asked the blonde if he really thought that this would restore their relationship. Nodding approvingly, the guy explained that he sincerely believed in it. Ricardo said that the aristocracy craved the recognition of those who ruled them just as much as they wanted to suppress those who did not. The countess thought about this proposal. The girl wondered how they would react to such a valuable gift. Smiling, Serena explained that in any case she was glad that she would marry him. The prince reminded the girl that they still had not held the engagement ceremony. A carriage with many gifts stopped at the palace. Ricardo suggested that the bride allow the servants to officiate at their wedding as he pleased. The guy explained to his chosen one that the power of gossip was much stronger than she thought. Looking out of the carriage window, the girl explained that the power of gossip was what they needed. Serena explained that if he wanted to become part of high society, this is exactly what they needed. Looking at the bride, the guy chuckled nervously. The trunk of the carriage was filled with many large and bright boxes with gifts. Entering the castle, Serena asked the servants for forgiveness for causing inconvenience with her unexpected visit. The butler explained that they were honored to receive her. Serena remembered that her fiancé said that he was invited to a special evening of reading love poetry. The Duchess was even bored thinking about it. Shortly before the wedding, Rico told the girl that he had received an invitation from Countess Fursha. Nervously straightening her hair, the girl asked if he really was going to go there. Serena understood that despite the fact that the guy appeared behind a spoon from the other side, he quickly joined the Imperial Secular Society. The blonde was curious how things were going with her fiancé. Bowing, the butler pointed to the luxurious oak door. The man reported to the girl that the prince was in that room. With lightning speed, the countess grabbed the door handle, trying to open it. The servant explained that he only told this to the girl because the countess was not there. Hanging over the prince, the guy asked if he had followed any plan from the first meeting. Ricardo calmly sipped some freshly brewed tea, ignoring the stupid slander. Without letting up, the guy explained that it didn't matter to him whether he aspired to her status or wanted to win all her love. The prosecutor noticed that there was something fishy. Placing the teacup on the table, Ricardo explained that he had never lied to his fiancée. The blonde noticed that the guy's remark could be interpreted as a disregard for her ladyship's judgment. Jumping back, the guy explained that this was not what he meant at all. The blonde explained that her ladyship was not used to communicating with men. Listening carefully to the conversation, Serena could not help but chuckle. The girl could feel the groom's gaze even through the door. In a whisper, the countess asked if the guy could hear her from there. The girl noticed that the dragon's power was truly omnipotent. A slight smile appeared on the guy's face. Ricardo explained that he and the princess had mutual feelings. The guy asked the prince what he wanted to say. His Majesty explained that the two of them fell in love at first sight. Ricardo explained that the girl treated him with the greatest kindness. The prince asked whether it was not right to have affection for such a person. The guy was furious and his face turned white. Entering the room, the bride of the city went to her lover. The girl explained that she knew such behavior was against the label. Serena explained that she would have to kidnap one of the guests. The blonde asked Lady Fershi for forgiveness for interrupting their tea party so rudely. The countess asked if the woman would be so kind as to visit her a little later. The blonde bowed deeply, showing all her respect. The brunette explained that it was an honor for her. Fersha asked what kind of event the girl would be organizing. The girl, taking the groom by the shoulder, explained that she was throwing a ball in honor of her engagement to Prince Ricardo. The guests present at the tea party turned around abruptly and began to whisper. The countess said that the celebration would take place at her estate in a week. The girl hugged her modestly smiling lover. Bowing, the brunette congratulated her ladyship on her marriage. The countess was dressed in a blue corset and a white shirt. Serena assigned her personal stylist named Marina to the prince. The lady explained that the brunette would prepare a suit for the groom at the ball. Bowing, Marina promised to fulfill her duties in the best possible way. The stylist admitted that she had never met such an inspiring model except the emperor himself. After such a compliment, a smile appeared on Ricardo's face. The mistress warned the brunette that there was one caveat. The countess explained that the ball was to take place in a week. The stylist's heart began to beat wildly. The girl promised to dress His Highness in the best clothes in the empire by the end of the week. Marina suddenly took out her tools and looked at the amazed prince with a mad look. The girl quickly wrapped a measuring tape around it, choosing the perfect style. It was clear from the speed of work that the stylist was the best of the best. Quickly leaving, Marina explained that she had taken approximate measurements and would soon return with samples. When the seamstress left, Ricardo asked why the bride was in such a hurry to announce her engagement. Hesitating a little, the countess asked whether this was really so unexpected for the guy. Serena explained that she had received a response from one of the aristocrats to whom she had sent a gift. There was a lot of talk among the aristocracy about gifts from Countess Artes. The aristocracy was delighted with the sculptures decorated with nothing less than the heart of a dragon. The aristocrats knew that they urgently needed to inform her ladyship. The nobility thanked her ladyship for her sincere praise and valuable gift. Representatives of the aristocracy swore eternal loyalty to the Crovian Empire. The countess read the letter of gratitude with a smile on her face. Serena realized that her gift had indeed satisfied them. The girl explained that she considered that now was the best time for action. The blonde explained that you need to strike while the iron is hot, that is, act decisively. The guy turned around when he heard the sound of the door opening. Marina brought many options for luxurious costumes to the room. Bowing, the girl invited Ricardo to try on the pieces he liked. While watching the long fitting, Serena ate crispy cookies. The girl diligently enjoyed every bite of the treat. Handing over a check with a huge amount, the countess said that she would take everything that her fiancé tried on. As she finished eating another delicious cookie, the girl realized that she had always wanted to do something like this. The blonde remembered that she was obsessed with endless romantic TV series before she came into this wonderful world. Serena realized that if she did not have the opportunity to try such pranks, then it was unlikely that such an opportunity would ever arise again. Trying on another suit, the prince asked the bride what she thought of his outfit. A snow-white suit with a black insert fit perfectly on Ricardo. Precious purple stones shone on the clasps. The blonde smiled and asked what he looked like. The girl looked in a daze because the prince had already turned out to be quite handsome for her. Sighing dreamily, Marina explained that in all the years of her work, she had never met anyone on whom this set would look so perfect. The stylist noticed that with the incredible appearance of His Highness, the suit revealed all its beauty. But I noticed that the guy was missing something to complete the look. The Countess told Marina that she had brought something with her. Serena suggested using this as a finishing touch. The blonde held out her hand with a small ring with a brightly shining pink stone. The prince asked whether it was not, or whether this stone was made from a dragon's eye. Smiling, the Countess explained that she could not give her future husband some trinket. A bright pink stone sat on Ricardo's graceful hand. A little embarrassed, the blonde explained that he was not sure that he could accept such a valuable gift. Siren was surprised that this was too much for the guy. The blonde remembered that it was still an arranged marriage. The Countess explained that if the guy was really worried about it, he could count the ring as a down payment. Hesitating a bit, the groom asked if the gift was really just a contribution. Sighing with relief, the girl assumed that she had cleared it all up. The lady asked Marina what her fiancé looked like. The brunette noticed that the ring was perfect. The stylist noted that her ladyship never disappointed. The girl jokingly suggested that the prince would become the most dazzling young man at the ball. The guy listened awkwardly to the lady's compliments. Serena noticed that choosing a costume took longer than she expected. The blonde explained that she never chose men's clothing. The girl said that it was already too late. The Countess invited the guy to spend the night at her estate. Bowing, Ricardo explained that he would be very grateful. The guy's once shining gaze was released, and there was sadness in his blue eyes. Siren asked why he was so depressed. The Countess carefully asked if the guy liked the new clothes. From such a sudden question, the blonde froze, trying to find the right words. The prince insisted that he was not thinking about anything important. The guy explained that he was allegedly sure that the bride was choosing a gift for His Majesty from the jeweler. With surprise, the girl asked about the gift. Serena asked if she should give Eric a gift. After an affirmative nod, the blonde asked why she needed to do this. Remembering Eric's greeting, the girl realized that they seemed so close. The Countess assured that nothing would ever happen between her and Eric. The siren argued that the slightest opportunity for that had ended a long time ago. The Countess explained that she understood his anxiety and explained that he could relax. The blonde explained that despite all the rumors, they would not break the marriage contract. The Countess held the door handle, intending to leave the room. The girl reassured the blonde that Eric was not her type. Hope shone in the blue eyes. The guy abruptly slammed the door in front of the blonde. Hanging over the girl, Ricardo asked if he was her type. The Countess turned around. I don't understand what her future husband wanted from her. Gently taking the prince by the chin, Siren answered positively. The girl claimed that he was her type. A little embarrassed, the blonde explained that if he managed to attract her attention even for a moment, then he was very glad that his face had completed its task. Very nervous, the Countess asked if he was really hinting that she was so superficial that she judged people by their appearance. With a forced smile, Ricardo explained that he would not dare say such a thing. The blonde explained that he gladly accepted the girl's offer. The Countess explained that if he needed help, he could call her. Soon the door creaked shut after the girl bowed. Siren blushed deeply to her ears, not understanding why the groom came so close to her. Events moved to the training field. Many bent balls sat against the fence, waiting to be repaired. The weapon whizzed through the air and made a ringing metallic sound when touched. The sun's glare played on the swords in the hands of the trainees. Swinging her sword once again, Serena suggested training every day after the wedding. The blonde gracefully parried her blow. The prince was very focused on their fight to answer questions. The Countess admitted that she had not felt in such good shape for a long time. The guy assured that if his future wife wants this, then he will undoubtedly become her sparring partner. Ricardo managed to land a quick strike for the first time. The blonde was surprised that his girlfriend deftly flew into the air, performing an excellent somersault. While still in the air, Siren swung her shiny sword. There was a smile on the girl's face, with her blonde hair falling apart in a light breeze. Having landed, the girl presented the sword to the prince's throat. Smiling, she asked the guy not to be dramatic and to get up quickly. The Countess explained that it was she who hit the ground. Siren realized that she had inadvertently hurt the guy's cheek. Scarlet drops of blood appeared on the snow-white skin. Wiping away the scarlet streams, Ricardo assumed that he had cut himself on the debris and suggested continuing. The girl insisted that she did not want to harm him. Lifting his beautiful face, the girl explained that if he had dodged better, he would not have gotten hurt like that. As soon as Serena touched his face, the sadness was replaced by a radiant smile. The Countess was a little angry with herself, because lately she had been living only for that beautiful face. The girl sincerely hoped that the scar would not remain. The butler turned to her ladyship with a deep bow. The guy brought a plate with a letter. The brunette discreetly explained that His Majesty had responded to her letter. The girl opened the letter with curiosity, wanting to know the answer of her old friend as quickly as possible. Leaning on the sword, the prince asked if an important guest would come. The smile on the girl's face gave way to misunderstanding and sadness. Serena replied that Eric would not come. Lighting the letter in a blue flame, the girl noticed that he had the right to do as he pleased. The blonde explained that she invited the guy purely out of politeness. Siren was angry with Eric because she knew that he would be like this. The Countess asked me to write the answer for her. Bowing, the servant accepted the order. The girl asked the groom if he wanted to return to the palace. The Countess insisted that she still had some work to do. The blonde took the information to heart. Ricardo said goodbye and hoped that they would meet on the day of their engagement. The blonde watched her fiancé for a long time. The rays of the setting sun painted the Duchess's property in burgundy shades. Ricardo, holding onto the sofa with difficulty, lay down on the soft mattress. There was a bandage on the guy's face that covered a small wound. The blonde pressed his hand tightly to the wound. The prince pondered the events of such a busy day. Ricardo felt some kind of sadness, considering how warmly the girl spoke about Eric. The blonde wondered when he and his fiancée would be able to get closer. The guy tightly clutched the gold watch in his hands and looked at the setting sun. Clutching the piece of paper tightly in her hands, Laura explained that she was honored that her friend had personally drawn up the invitation. With a smile on her face, the blonde excitedly imagined that her friend would soon throw a ball in honor of her engagement. Laura noticed that the Countess was as polite as always. The hero of the occasion explained that it was necessary to act quickly in order to take everyone by surprise. The Baroness nervously asked her friend if she would see her after the wedding. Smiling, Serena explained that her friend herself knew the answer to her question. The blonde explained to the Baroness that even if she divorced Ricardo, she would not break ties with her. Laura asked about divorce and asked not to joke about it. The blonde clearly did not hide the fact that she was pleased to hear about this. The Baroness explained that no matter what choice her friend made, she would support her in everything. The girl remembered her friend in her past life. The Countess fell silent. I remember those wonderful days. Serena realized that the girls were really similar. Noticing that her friend hesitated, the Baroness asked her what happened. Laughing, the Duchess explained that she remembered something. Laura noticed that from their first meeting the blonde was unusual. Menacingly striking the table with her palms, the Baroness asked why she could not do this. The girl asked if there was a law that prohibited women from taking the entrance exam to the Imperial Academy. The blonde explained that most of the aristocratic talents are better revealed in other areas. Laura was furious that the only areas available to them were tea parties and the selection of luxurious outfits. Hearing her friend's indignation, the Countess came up and asked what was happening. Everyone began to whisper when they saw Princess Artes herself. Laura looked at her friend with admiration, because she was the only woman in the Empire to hold a princely title. The man explained that it was just a small commotion. The Countess explained that imperial law stated that a woman could not earn a princely title. The brunette tried to explain in a trembling voice, but only unintelligible babble came out of his mouth. Serena sternly asked if the man had nothing to answer. Turning to the girl, Siren asked what her name was. With admiration, the blonde introduced herself as Laura Ains. There were sounds of fussing behind him. The Countess's servant was furious, and told the man that the princess needed to be treated properly. Laughing, Serena explained that she shouldn't have done this. The girl assured that in fact she liked it much better this way. The blonde decided to return to the topic and recalled that she received the princely title as a woman. Siren clarified that there was no reason why Lady Laura could not pass the exam. In a trembling voice, the examiner explained to her ladyship that she was right. The blonde ordered the servant to make sure that the girl could pass the exam. The guy with the hair the color of a raven feather took the order. In a trembling voice, Laura thanked her ladyship. The girl went outside and the glare of the sun played on her luxurious hair. Lady Laura saw off her heroine with a smile on her face. The Baroness asked her friend if she knew how she was shining at that moment. At that moment, Siren felt as if she had brought about a big change. Tea splashed in the princess's cup, blurring her image. The Baroness made a big fuss and it was quite funny. The men discussed that the entrance exam to the academy was not a favor that a self-taught woman could handle. Someone commented that it was quite difficult. The man claimed that the blonde would soon give up and go in search of her husband. But in reality, Serena could not change anything. The Countess explained that she actually wanted to apologize to Laura for that incident. The Baroness explained that she simply did not have enough skills, and asked her friend not to worry about it. The blonde reassured her friend that she had enough of everything except the support of those around her. With a twinkle in her eye, Laura said she hasn't given up and is still studying hard. The blonde explained that she did everything she could. The Baroness said that she had recently read something interesting in a book. Without listening to her friend, Serena explained that she lived in a world where everyone was afraid of her, but Laura was one of the few who treated her without prejudice. Remembering her past life, the girl realized that it was as easy for her with Laura as in her previous life with Hyun. Serena realized that she felt just as comfortable with Rico. Serena remembered that the guy promised her another advantage that she would gain. That day, the prince explained that if she marries him, she will receive an assistant who will understand her. The blonde didn't understand why the guy interested her so much. Without making small talk, the girl took a sip of hot tea. Laura asked her friend if she was listening to her. After apologizing, the Duchess explained that she suddenly thought about Ricardo. A little angry, the Baroness explained that she thought their friendship was above the prince. Laughing, Serena asked for forgiveness. The girl took an envelope with a luxurious wax seal. The Countess was surprised that in her hands there was a letter from the Kingdom of Ariana. The blonde asked if he really came to her estate just to give her the letter. Ricardo said that he thought it would be better to open it together. Sitting down next to her chair, the blonde gently took her hand. The prince reminded that they would soon get married. The guy gently held his beloved. Serena asked the groom if there was a letter from Queen Rita, who was his adoptive mother. Ricardo replied that her assumptions were correct. The prince asked her ladyship to wait. The girl has already broken the wax seal. The Countess was greatly alarmed by the smell of roses. The girl quickly realized that the letter was covered in dangerous poison. Serena noticed that the blonde was not very surprised by such an incident. Lowering his eyes, the guy admitted that this happened from time to time. Ricardo explained that he had survived a fair number of murder attempts in his time. The blonde asked why her ladyship was not surprised by such an incident. The girl sat unharmed in a luxurious mahogany chair. Ricardo suggested that the questions were unnecessary. The blonde explained that she always received death threats from defeated states. The Countess suggested moving on to the letter. On the poisoned piece of paper, it was written that Her Majesty had heard rumors about an imminent marriage. The Queen warned that her stupid husband had given his blessing, but the aristocracy was strongly opposed and asked the girl to forget about any hope of the throne. The mother explained to the blonde that he managed to seduce the princess, but he would not lay a finger on her kingdom. Laughing, Serena asked if that was the whole point. The prince asked the bride not to pay attention to this. With trembling hands, the girl burned the letter to the ground. Clenching her fist tightly, the blonde chuckled that the marriage would definitely take place. For her celebration, the girl was dressed in a luxurious red dress. The puffy hem and sleeves were decorated with black bows, and the neck was hung with jewelry. Serena was sure that after a long break she would be embarrassed to wear a fluffy dress. The Countess explained that she felt simply wonderful in the outfit. The girl smiled and noted that money can buy happiness. The seamstress explained that she would take this as a compliment to her handiwork. She explained that they were working harder than before. Clenching her fist tightly, the servant noted that Lady Olivia would never outshine the girl at the engagement celebration. The Countess asked whether such phrases were too much for a servant. The blonde remembered that Eric said he wouldn't come. Serena realized that there was no guarantee that Olivia would be there either. Someone knocked on the door and asked if they could come in. With a heavy sigh, the girl allowed us to enter. The blonde sat down heavily on a chair after a long fitting. The groom entered the room with a radiant smile on his face. Ricardo was amazed by the beauty of his chosen one. His eyes shone when he saw the bride. With a smile on her face, the Countess noticed that the suit suited the guy very well. The blonde noticed that her ladyship looked much more charming. Serena admitted that she was quite pleased with her outfit. Seeing the jewel in a luxurious white box, the guy asked the bride if he could help her with the necklace. The girl happily sipped wine after long fittings. Serena gladly accepted her fiancé's proposal. The blonde easily lifted her luxurious golden hair, deftly fastening the jewelry around the girl's neck. Ricardo noticed that this accessory suited her ladyship very well. Leaning over the girl, the prince asked if she thought that he was more beautiful than any decoration. Gently kissing the guy's hand, her ladyship noted that there would be no groom in the world that could compare with his splendor. A small tremor ran through Ricardo's body. His cheeks turned red. The girl curiously asked her betrothed how long he would call her, Your Grace. The prince promised Lady Serena that he would henceforth watch his words. There was commotion in Siren's courtyard. Many nobles came to her engagement. Zenith noted that, as he expected, everything was organized perfectly. One of the guys looked with admiration at the carriage that arrived at the palace. Olivia lifted the hem of her blue and white dress and stepped out of the luxurious carriage. When Siren noticed the imperial coat of arms, for a few moments she thought that it was His Majesty who had arrived. The blonde realized that he did not accompany the girl that evening. Bowing low, the prince greeted the girl with copper hair. Olivia noticed that a lot of time had passed since their last meeting at the banquet. The girl asked if the prince was doing well. Laughing, the man explained to her ladyship that no one in the empire after Her Majesty had succeeded like him. The darkened brunette asked if Olivia had heard the latest gossip. The man wanted to tell about the stone that was inlaid into the ring that Princess Artez gave to Prince Ricardo. Smiling, the newlyweds approached, noticing that both aristocrats were in the same place. Taking a glass of red wine from the tray, Zenith explained that he could not miss the celebration in honor of the one who had made such an invaluable contribution to their empire. Standing arm in arm with the groom, the countess explained that she was glad that the man accepted their invitation. After taking a sip of wine, the prince explained that the scale of her reception was truly due to the status of her ladyship. Without allowing the man to finish his drink, the hero of the occasion knocked out the glass with a sharp movement of her hand. It broke into many small fragments, spilling its contents across the red carpets. Taken aback, Zenith asked what the girl had done. Taking a closer look at the spilled drink, Ricardo noticed that there was something mixed in there. The blonde noticed that his fiancée was indeed constantly being threatened. Having looked closely, the prince realized that there really was something added to the glass. Looking around the hall filled with people, Serena realized that even on such a beautiful day, a killer from another country had sneaked into her territory. Under the girl's gaze, the waiter began to tremble violently. The countess ordered to seize him. Laughing, the bride explained that the tat was trying to kill her guests with a simple sleeping pill. Handing Zenith a new glass of wine, the girl invited him to drink from the new glass. Looking around nervously, the prince noticed that even after the end of the war, there were many risks in the girl's life. The siren introduced the prince to her fiancé. The girl asked the groom if he remembered that Eric represented the man at the last ball. Having answered positively, the guy remembered that Zenith was his comrade in arms on the battlefield. So they knew each other well. Smiling, the brunette suggested that this was an unpleasant surprise for the prince, since such an event so often overtook his bride. The prince asked how he would cope with such incidents. Taking the girl's hand, Ricardo explained that it was a small price to pay to be near Lady Serena. The prince explained that when he saw the newlyweds, it became clear to him that they were an excellent couple. Smiling, the lady explained that the brunette was as verbose as before. Feeling Olivia's gaze on her, the blonde looked around sharply. The girl apologized for the belated greeting. The newlyweds bowed respectfully. The copper-haired girl greeted Countess Artez. Those present began to whisper that the princess and Lady Olivia were talking. The aristocracy discussed that the girl's relationship was quite strained. Smiling, the girl with copper hair noticed that His Majesty could not come to today's fun. Olivia stared attentively at the rings on the hands of the newlyweds. The girl remembered that after receiving the message about the marriage of the first blade of the empire, His Majesty gave her the Eye of the Dragon. The aristocrat was unhappy that her fiancé did not know that the jewel would return to the hands of the enemy prince. There was a buzz throughout the hall when the guests learned that the newlyweds' rings were made from a dragon's eye. People were furious that the one-of-a-kind gem that was given away by the empire struck UC dividends. The man was surprised that Lady Olivia was so straightforward. The culprit asked the people to stop discussing and wait. Smiling, the girl with red hair asked the prince what it was like to successfully win the heart of the princess and return the national treasure of her country. Smiling, the prince explained that Siren was betrothed to him and was part of his family. Smiling, the blonde explained that the dragon's eyes still belonged to the girl. Ricardo explained that he could not imagine a greater honor on his part. After the guy's phrase, a roar arose again in the hall. Many people whispered how the guy could say such a thing. Olivia wondered if the prince could really get engaged to her. The blonde explained that others usually showed affection for each other at the engagement ceremony. Serena explained that everyone had already seen the headline in the newspaper, and she could leave out that part. The culprit thanked those present for joining their celebration. Serena wished everyone a pleasant evening and a safe trip home. The blonde quickly climbed the stairs with her betrothed. Moving away from Olivia, the guy couldn't help but laugh. The siren asked the prince why he was laughing. The guy explained that he liked how the bride stood up for him. The countess noticed that every little thing made the guy happy. Ricardo explained that he was confident that he would never forget the upcoming ceremony. The newlyweds stood and watched as the setting rays of the sun painted the sky in all the colors of the rainbow. Siren gently hugged the guy around the waist. With rage, the girl hit the table, complaining about the damn aristocratic circle. Trembling all over, the blonde explained that they gladly took the dragon's heart, and yet refused to sanction her engagement. The stone table could not withstand the impact and cracked into small pieces. The girl's hands were in some kind of liquid. Eric reassured his friend that this was already a big deal. The blonde explained that they still didn't approve of his marriage, despite the fact that he got engaged last year. The guy sat calmly on the sofa, putting the cup on the tray. Serena noticed that her comrade-in-arms did not insist on this, since he did not really want to get married. The blonde noticed that despite the fact that Eric was an emperor, he did not particularly care about state affairs. The girl asked her friend how he had time to hang around like that. Eric carefully handed his friend a napkin, since she had wasted her mug of tea. The girl thanked her for your concern. The blonde explained that his life did not consist only of work. Sighing heavily, Siren noticed that he was incorrigible. The blonde admitted that she trusted Duke Zenith, and he repaid her for saving her at the party by stabbing her in the back. The girl nervously began to scratch her back. The blonde will reassure his friend that it was difficult for Duke Zenith to know everything alone. The guy explained that even he could not go against the aristocracy rashly, despite the fact that he himself was the emperor. The blonde explained that enough pleasantries were enough and urged them to go on the offensive. Eric asked his friend to make sure that the mess she made was small enough. The blonde promised that he would try to solve this later. Breaking into a scream, the Duchess asked her friend if he was joking. The girl explained that she had had enough and explained that it was time for her to leave. Siren grabbed the door handle, but the guy explained that Olivia wanted to talk to her. The girl stopped for a few moments. Looking at the guy, she asked why this was necessary. The blonde explained that the bride didn't tell him anything, and he didn't have the slightest idea. Eric explained that his fiancée simply asked him to give it to her. The countess stopped wondering what Olivia wanted from her. The girl joked that her friend was at the complete disposal of the future empress. The guy decided to make it clear that the blonde was the one who gave up that title. The blonde looked at his friend with a smile. Frowning, the countess did not understand why Eric mentioned this now. Walking through her friend's palace, the girl assumed that the nobles were greatly infuriated that such a young and shameless girl like her had really become a countess. Siren, following the guy, straightened her luxurious hair. The girl was disappointed that this power did not allow her to do whatever she wanted. Smiling, Eric asked what she thought about becoming an empress. The blonde looked at her friend in numb surprise. Siren asked again. The guy asked her to think about it. The emperor explained that as his consort, Siren would have much more freedom to do as she pleased. The guy promised to protect her from responsibilities that she wants to avoid. Siren asked her friend to wait a second and asked again if he was serious. With a smile on his face, the guy nodded positively. Lowering her eyes, the girl explained that she was very young at that time. Sitting down on the sofa, Eric suggested doing it now. The blonde recalled that they were both engaged. The guy knew very well that his beloved always drew the line when the conversation came to this. Eric was aware that the girl was warning him not to go any further. The countess insistently asked what Lady Olivia had asked her to tell her. Sighing heavily, the blonde explained to his friend that his fiancé invited the girl to drop by for tea with her future husband. Frozen, the blonde tried to understand what was happening. Siren guessed that the copper-haired girl wanted to apologize for the weird pressure at their engagement party. The blonde tried to comprehend what could have happened. Olivia thanked her ladyship for taking the time to come. The girl hoped that the blonde would take seriously the confession she was about to make. Serena's hands trembled violently, and the girl almost doused herself with hot tea. The Countess could not understand why the girl was so nervous. Raising her fan, Olivia explained that she wanted to express her sympathy for Countess Arthas. The blonde recalled that there was always some awkwardness between them. The girl was surprised that she made such a sudden statement. The Countess realized that the girl was not serious. The blonde wondered what Olivia was really up to. Exhaling, the copper-haired girl explained that when she was a young debutante taking her first timid steps into society, she deeply admired the blonde. Olivia supposed that all the young noblewomen back then probably felt the same way. The girl explained that all they were striving for was a good marriage and social authority. Olivia noticed that the blonde was completely different. After all, she was the only girl who held Count status in her own right. Olivia explained that if anyone were to assume the status of Empress, it should be her. The girl noticed that many were waiting for Serena to bring changes to their country. The Countess stopped the girl's story. The blonde apologized for interrupting. The girl explained that she had a question. Olivia asked what the blonde was talking about. The Countess asked why she asked her about this now. Gloomily, Ricardo suggested that this was due to the fact that they were engaged. The blonde explained that if Lady Olivia marries, then Serena will start a family and remain in the Empire. The guy explained that if she had intentions to establish herself as the Duchess of the Crovian Empire and achieve drastic changes. Taking a closer look at the guy, Olivia noticed that her ladyship had a rather smart fiancé. Sighing heavily, Siren asked for forgiveness for not meeting her expectations. The blonde admitted that she was not so devoted to the nation. The Countess explained that she was very tired of killing and saving others. Serena explained that she was now trying to save herself. Squeezing her fan tightly, the girl explained that she understood the Countess. Olivia supposed the blonde had been through a lot over the years. The brown-haired woman explained that if she ever changes her mind, she can always come to her. Coming out of the palace, the girl admitted that it was quite unexpected. The Countess explained that she had underestimated Olivia. Turning to her betrothed, Serena asked why he was out of sorts. Ricardo explained that he was sad to see someone who had caused nothing but hostility until today, selfishly demanding that she work for the good of the nobility and the empire. The guy explained that he could not be disappointed in Lady Serena. The blonde suggested that Ricardo also experienced something similar. The Countess realized that Rico was fed up with such things. It was not surprising for the girl that the guy was so turned on. Serena noticed that Lady Olivia was being honest with her. 2 horses, their hooves clattering evenly, carried the newlyweds. The blonde noticed that she placed expectations on her of her own accord. The Countess explained that she could understand why she had commented on the presence of the jewels of the empire on the fingers of a foreign prince. The guy explained that it was true. The blonde didn't like it when nobles used Lady Siren in their games. Ricardo wondered if there was another way to keep the nobles in line. The prince suggested that the bride keep Olivia at a distance for a while. The guy suggested concentrating on playing a trick on the aristocrats. The blonde reminded them that they were the source of all the problems. Serena once again clarified his plan. The blonde asked where he got such ideas. The girl realized that he wanted to let off steam. The Countess asked about the trick, clarifying what the guy had come up with. The blonde said that before he came to the Empire, he heard an intriguing rumor. Ricardo said that in the Empire there was a casino that belonged to a society of aristocrats. The guy explained that the casino, at first glance, looked like ordinary entertainment for tourists. Ricardo explained that the casino was a place where the nobles of the entire continent could relax and have fun. The guy said that there was one rule. Ricardo clarified that entry there was prohibited for the imperial family. After thinking for a while, Serena realized that she had been there before. The girl remembered that the ban was in effect under the pretext that a diplomatic incident might arise. The blonde remembered that this could happen if the imperial family used power in a place where there were many foreign guests. The siren warned the groom that targeting this spot could be dangerous. The Countess explained that the destruction of the playground, which the nobles had built long and painstakingly, would be a short-lived joy. The girl explained that this was not a battlefield where all problems could be solved only by force. The siren warned that their retaliation would be proportional to theirs. The girl was worried that such an incident would adversely affect their relationship with their marriage. Smiling, Ricardo explained that he did not propose to attack the casino by force, The girl was surprised and asked the groom what he was going to do. Smirking, the blonde offered to take it away from them. The guy explained that he meant the dragon's heart. Ricardo whispered his plan in his ear. The Countess realized that she was on her way to a career change. Serena realized that she was on the path from the strongest duchess in the world to a jewelry thief. At the residence of the Duke of Zenith, the man explained that the girl's visit greatly surprised him. The brunette asked what the girl wanted to discuss with him. The Duke leaned elegantly on his luxurious cane. The blonde explained that she didn't need any special reason to meet with her old friend. Serena reminded him that he was at her ball. She explained that visiting guests was common. Mentally, the blonde reminded herself that they had a completely different reason for visiting. Siren glanced at her betrothed. The Countess asked the man if it was true that the dragon's heart, which she gave to the noble house, was in his possession. Zenit noticed that the girl, as always, was well informed. The brunette shared that he was asked to monitor the safety of the gem. Siren expected to hear this answer. The girl was sure that the gem would be left to the Marquis Thortona, and she mentioned that he represented a noble house. The prince assured that he also initially thought about this. I thought it would be more appropriate to give the jewel to him. The count explained that everyone was sure that the girl would try to destroy the dragon's heart if it were kept in that place of the Marquis. Siren was surprised how high society resembled a snake pit. The blonde was surprised to hear that the nobles were still afraid of her, even though they refused to approve the engagement. The girl's silhouette flashed with blue flame. Rubbing her hands, Serena realized that no matter where the jewel was stored, she would in any case grind it into powder. Using his telepathy, the blonde reminded his betrothed that they should steal the jewel, not destroy it. Siren replied that she didn't see any difference in that. The countess heard some noise outside the door and became a little wary. The girl heard someone begging for a pink diamond to be put up for auction. The merchant explained that the jewel was not as good as the dragon's heart. The girl instantly realized that something was happening behind the door. Siren asked the guy if he heard it. After an affirmative answer, the girl realized that another pink diamond had appeared in the state. Zenit asked the countess if something had happened. Smiling, Serena explained that they were enjoying the magnificent view from the window. The brunette explained that he would not have allowed anyone to treat him if he had known that she would come. The girl asked if someone else was visiting him. Answering in the affirmative, the man explained that he allegedly doubted that the girl would be happy to see his guest. After Zenit opened the door, a thick cloud of cigarette smoke flew out at the guests. All the aristocrats who were in the casino turned sharply at the newcomers. Holding the cards in his hands, the man asked who came to them. Smiling, Marquis Toron was surprised to see Countess Artez. Uncomfortably, the brunette suggested that the living room was a bit cramped for so many people. Covering most of his face with cards, Taran apologized for his rudeness. The man explained that he wanted to greet the blonde properly. The head of the noble house explained that his old body was unable to stand up as easily as before. Zenith explained to the lady that the dragon's heart was in the very center. The girl proudly walked towards the recently donated statue. The siren took a huge red apple and asked her groom to step aside. With a slight movement of her hand, the girl broke the glass that protected the precious statue. The man asked the countess if she had gone crazy. The brunette warned that the girl could have hurt someone. The head of the noble house threw down his cards and rushed to the statue, hoping that his piece of the dragon heart was still intact. The blonde was surprised that the man 5 minutes ago said that his health was failing him. The girl joked that it wasn't that difficult for him to get up. Bursting into blue flames, the girl asked if the Marquise wanted to greet her properly. The blonde discarded 3 cards. Ricardo reminded the bride that it was her turn. The guy received only silence in response. The blonde asked the girl if everything was okay. Serena's face was covered with a damp cloth. The countess explained that she did not expect to meet old vipers from a noble house. The girl assured that she was able to check the statue. Serena was glad that they eventually apologized for their ignorance. She realized that the nobles did this under duress. The blonde was sure that she would be able to deal with the magical defense quite quickly. Ricardo noted that the defense was quite advanced. He stated that the defense was far from being able to match his lady's strength. The girl asked if the prince thought the voice they heard in the corridor earlier seemed familiar. Ricardo noted that most likely it was Baron Rotto. Not understanding who the guy was talking about, the blonde asked again. The guy asked if she remembered that young man at the literary evening of Countess Fursha. Serena asked her betrothed if he had spoken about the guy who tried to start a fight with him. The blonde explained that Rotto's words took him by surprise. Ricardo explained that even in his kingdom, pink diamonds were considered quite valuable because they were extremely rare. The girl noticed that the Baron had such a valuable gem as a surprise to her. The siren remembered that she had crushed the rarest stone of all. The prince said that according to rumors, due to gambling, Rado had a huge debt, because of which he sold almost all his property. The blonde said that according to rumors, the pink diamond was the only thing the Baron had left. Ricardo assumed that he came to the literary evening in order to take out a loan. Reading the paper, the girl explained that the document said that the pink Rado diamond had been stolen long ago. The girl remembered that he at the Zenith estate said that he wanted to put it up for auction. Siren was perplexed how one could trade something that was stolen long ago. The blonde explained that there was no theft. Ricardo explained that the gambler used the pink diamond to take out another loan and later squandered all the money. The Countess began to understand why Rado wanted to sell the jewel quickly and anonymously. The blonde explained that it seemed as if the stolen gem had appeared at an auction. The prince gently threw a warm blanket over the shoulders of his bride. Siren looked at the guy in bewilderment. The girl asked why he did this. Ricardo explained that her outfit seemed too light to him. The blonde was worried that his bride would be cold. The girl explained that she was completely fine, except for the absence of a heart. The Countess asked if her betrothed really believed that the slightest cold would make her tremble. Having apologized, the blonde realized that the girl was much more resistant to the cold. Serena began to blame herself for such a cold answer. At such moments, the Countess thought that not even a real heart would be better than nothing at all. A plan appeared in the girl's head when she remembered the real heart and the fake one. The blonde told Ricardo that she knew what they needed to do. The girl suggested changing their plan a little. The Countess asked her lover to convince the Baron that he could hand over the pink diamond. The siren asked her lover to bring the jewel to her. The girl suggested swapping the jewelry places. She did a neat trick with the card, which turned from burgundy to black in the sunlight. The casino was filled with noise. Looking around the huge room, the blonde realized that she had not been in this place for a long time. The girl noticed that the place for gambling had become much more spectacular. Serena realized that if even nobles from neighboring kingdoms flocked to this casino, then the business was truly and simply thriving. Smiling, the prince explained that he allegedly did not expect that his bride often looked into such establishments. The blonde admitted that she had been to the casino only once in her life. The girl explained that she had been sent an invitation since Eric appointed her as his assistant. As they watched the Countess go, everyone discussed how she came to them. The girl was prohibited from entering as an imperial landowner. Siren took the guy's hand tightly. Smiling, the blonde noticed that her fiancé didn't even dare take her hand. Ricardo reminded the bride that they needed to get inside as soon as possible, because the auction would begin soon. With unshakable confidence and a predatory gaze, the Countess offered to do this. The auctioneer greeted the crowd. The girl presented the first lot of the evening, which was a real masterpiece. The auctioneer presented the painting as Lake Rado. The girl imagined that it was a magnificent landscape by a famous artist from the central regions. The auctioneer explained that the original cost of the painting was 5,000 gold coins. Having picked up her number, the girl offered twice as much without hesitation. The auctioneer was surprised by such a quick rise in bids. Siren wanted revenge on the aristocracy for the time they stayed away from her. The girl planned to take away every lot so that everyone would realize. The groom noticed that the girl's desires matched her ambitions. The auctioneer presented the jewel of the ruling Triton dynasty. It was a magnificent emerald necklace. The lady offered 8,000 gold pieces. Ricardo explained to his bride that his arm was starting to hurt. The guy asked the girl to raise his hand a little more gently. She apologized and explained that she couldn't control her powers. The girl explained that they had reached the main masterpiece of their auction. The auctioneer revealed that the last lot was one of only 2 items for the entire continent. Ricardo realized that the girl was talking about a pink diamond. The blonde responded positively with a smile, realizing that the real purpose of her participation in the auction had finally appeared. The nobles began to whisper about whether the dragon's heart or that diamond from Baron Rado was for sale. Most knew that the jewel was stolen. The prince looked furtively at the brunette. The servant whispered in the man's ear that the gem was the same as the Baron's. The gentleman suggested that Baron Rado still managed to place the jewel at auction. The prince noticed that Zenith was not indifferent to this development of events. Stretching sweetly, Serena explained that he would quickly understand that it was they who helped the Baron. The girl asked what he thought the final cost would be. The auctioneer drew the attention of those present to herself. The woman suggested that everyone might have questions about the authenticity of the rare item. The auctioneer explained that the best appraiser on the continent had come to them, who could confirm that the jewel was indeed a pink diamond. Having carefully looked at the pink stone, the appraiser noticed that it was undoubtedly a diamond. The man hesitated a lot looking at the jewelry. The auctioneer asked the professional if there was any problem. The appraiser, examining the jewelry, realized that most likely it was the heart of a dragon. The woman began to get very nervous when the appraiser looked at the stone for a long time and intently. The auctioneer warned those present that authentication would take longer than expected. Siren stood up and said that something was wrong. The girl explained that the jewelry was definitely in her jewelry box. The blonde asked if someone could explain this to her. The countess explained that the jewel was the very heart of the dragon, which she gave to the noble house. Those present were horrified by such a statement. With a smile, the girl asked what the jewel was doing at the auction. It was the third day of the auction. Serena remarked that she didn't expect the groom to actually do this. The girl carefully examined the diamond, which previously belonged to Baron Rado. Smiling, the prince explained that he was only following her orders. The guy explained that the Baron said that it didn't matter to him whether the gem was sold or crushed. Rado's main goal was revenge on the noble house. The prince remembered that he had said that he also treated some low-ranking aristocrats with disdain. The blonde apologized to the prince for his behavior at the literary evening. Siren realized that the noble house had many more enemies than she expected. Hanging over the blonde, the groom asked to tell him about the further steps of her plan. Serena said that first they need to make the Baron's diamond look just like the dragon's heart and exchange it with the real one. The girl claimed that no one would be able to distinguish the jewelry. The blonde explained that she would use her magic to cast an illusion over the Duke's residence until the auction was over. The girl realized that when the real dragon heart was put up for auction, it would look like the nobles were trying to sell the jewel that the girl had given them. Serena planned for the Baron's diamond to be discovered in the possession of the Duke of Zenith. Lost in thought, the prince knew that everyone would think that the noble house had stolen the Rado diamond. The guy realized where everything was going and waited until the nobles were imprisoned. Serena asked that this be given to her. In the early days of the auction, the owner of the estate actually improved the protective magic in the Duke's estate after her visit. This gave the blonde a bit of a headache. Luckily for her, the girl was able to pass through without being noticed. With one deft movement, she took the jewel in her hands. The girl realized that she didn't even sweat. The siren became alert when she heard a noise outside the door. The blonde quickly hid, and the dim light of the lantern could not snatch her from the darkness. The girl was jubilant that she managed to place the fake in the deer's forehead. The countess sighed with relief that the real dragon's heart was again in her hands. Serena did not understand what the maid was doing in the hall at such a late hour. The girl, from behind a luxurious column, watched as the maid took out a stone from the forehead of the statue. The security ordered to find the thief and search every corner. The guards realized that she could be anywhere. The blonde realized that the thief had put something in the statue. The countess realized that she had planted a fake gem. Siren followed the girl with her gaze. The blonde understood that she needed to be as careful as possible since the castle was being searched. One of the guards asked the maid what she was doing in the corridor at such a late hour. The girl asked for forgiveness and explained that she was a little lost. Siren tried to figure out who this maid was. The countess understood that because of that girl, the statue was not even a pink diamond but a cheap fake. The blonde decided to cast another illusion spell on the jewelry. The girl carried out her plan with dexterity. Siren reassured herself that she had managed to get the dragon's heart. The countess realized that she would need to take a closer look at this maid later. The girl gave herself the order to begin implementing her life plans. Having risen, Serena asked how they dared to put her gift up for auction. With a smile on his face, the blonde watched his bride and realized that the girl had wonderful artistic talent. The auctioneer asked her lordship to calm down and explained that the evaluation of the goods was not yet completed. Dripping with cold sweat, the appraiser mumbled something under his breath. The countess ordered the man to clearly say what he saw in front of him. Trembling all over, the blonde explained that the diamond was indeed Arinia's jewel. The appraiser announced to the whole room that the jewel was the heart of a dragon. The aristocracy was horrified that the nobles had actually put Countess Artis's gift up for auction. The man asked where she was. He was furious that Siren was actually present at the auction. The man recalled that he ordered her never to be let in. Trembling all over, Duke Zenith stood up heavily, leaning on his cane. His faithful servant instantly ran up to the man. Turning around, the prince noticed that Duke Zenith was leaving. The blonde boldly assumed that he wanted to check whether his jewelry was really missing. The appraiser and auctioneer looked at the countess with stunned eyes. The girl's eyes shone with rage. The man explained that he remembered urgent matters and asked to leave. Someone noticed that the casino was about to collapse. With a grin, Serena watched the cowards go. After bowing, the man introduced himself as Colton and explained that he was the manager of this establishment. The blonde brought his deepest changes. The manager explained that he was informed about what happened, and he did not expect the scale of this tragedy. The girl waved it off and asked the guy to forget about it. Smirking, Siren promised that the noble house would be held accountable for its actions. The blonde realized that Zenith did not have time to go too far. The girl realized that it was necessary to use the chance to force the aristocracy to approve of her marriage. The blonde suddenly felt something inside her, and because of this, her pupils shrank. Serena remembered that she had heard this sound before and realized that she had felt her heartbeat. Noticing his bride's confusion, the blonde asked Lady Serena what happened. The girl explained that the heart did not belong to any person. Serena explained that she heard such a loud heartbeat, as if everyone was terribly nervous. The Duchess asked what was going on in this casino. Trembling all over, the manager answered in a trembling voice that he did not understand what the girl was talking about. Ricardo noticed that judging by their reaction, they were hiding something. The blonde was surprised that her fiancé felt it too. Answering in the affirmative, the prince explained that he also felt it, but not so strongly. Ricardo claimed that the source was somewhere under his feet. The guy noticed that it was like an earthquake, just very weak. Siren frowned and suggested that there was definitely something in the basements. Walking along the corridor, the blonde noticed that with each step the tremors became stronger. Colton assured her ladyship that there really was nothing there. The girls stopped near the luxurious home library. The blonde stated that the tremors came from there. Ricardo asked the bride if she needed help. The manager, looking gloomy, explained that if she interfered in their affairs, he would not stand aside. The man warned that he would immediately call the guards. Siren, with one slight movement of her hand, broke the bookcase into many small fragments of glass and wood. The blonde trembled greatly when he saw the girl's true strength. Serena explained that she didn't mind fighting a couple of weak boys with no fighting experience. The blonde, standing on the top step of the basement, said that she intended to find out what was going on there. The girls slowly walked down the gloomy steps. The staircase went down endlessly, and unlit torches hung next to it. The reflections of blue flames played on the cold brick walls. Ricardo noticed that the sound was getting louder. Frowning, the girl noticed that they had not installed a soundproof barrier. The blonde claimed that she really hoped that this would justify such a long journey. The prince explained that while his bride was at the auction, he was able to eavesdrop on the conversations of the nobles. Ricardo explained that he did not know the details, but those who visited the casino more than 10 times received a key that would open up a certain path for them. The countess quickly realized that in this mysterious, gloomy place, there was something accessible only to guests. Serena explained that this explained why she and Eric knew nothing. The blue flames reflected terribly in the prince's eyes, emphasizing the blue of his eyes. The blonde asked if the bride really believed that His Majesty knew nothing. Ricardo suggested that he might be faking it. The couple walked for a long time along the gloomy corridors. The guy suggested that he could be pretending. Soon the girls reached a huge wooden door with many locks. The oak door was reinforced with metal plates and bolts. The guy asked my lady if she was sure that she wanted to find out what exactly was behind the door. The blonde noticed that in some mysterious dungeons, hundreds of hearts seemed to be beating. Burning the door to the ground, the girl explained that she wanted to see what was there. Upon entering, the blonde was taken aback when she saw a huge stadium with thousands of people. Siren was surprised to see the Colosseum. The girl was delighted that they even tried to create an artificial sun using magic. I looked down and Siren saw a huge, ferocious monster that 5 strong guys could barely hold on to. The girl was surprised that the arena was a place for fighting a bull. The countess asked if such entertainment was really a thing of the distant past. Pointing his finger at the stage, the prince drew the siren's attention to the fighter pitted against a ferocious animal. The little girl, trembling with fear, stood with a giant red flag that was hung on a spear. Sighing heavily, Ricardo noticed that even people in the distant past had more morals. Tears flowed from the baby's eyes, and her legs began to twist from fear. The enraged animal rushed towards the little girl with fury. Losing her temper, Serena called those present crazy. The girl ordered to stop this immediately. The aristocracy looked at the new arrival in surprise. There was a noise throughout the crowd because no one understood what Countess Artes was doing in the Colosseum. Everyone was sure that the imperial family did not have access to their secret place. With much fuss, the aristocracy was outraged by this and said that such entertainment was strictly classified. The manager asked everyone to calm down. The angry bull got tired trying to free himself. One of the ropes broke and the angry animal approached the girl, trembling with fear. The countess realized that the noise of the crowd had greatly angered the animal. Siren realized that the animal would soon kill the child. The girl rushed down without much hesitation. The blonde landed next to the baby, raising a huge cloud of dust around her. Serena asked the child if she was okay. The countess began to gently stroke the face of the enraged animal. The girl was very nervous because she had never worked with animals before. Siren tried her best to convey a message to the monster using her powers. The bull's red eyes turned sky blue. The huge bull at the girl's command lay down and began to tremble violently. Observers began to discuss whether the animal had always been so docile. Extending her hand to the girl, the countess asked if everything was okay with her. The baby staggered back, falling to the ground and began to tremble violently. The blonde looked at her hand, trying to figure out what was wrong. Running up to the bride, the guy asked if she was okay. The girl was surprised to see Ricardo in the arena. Serena explained that it was necessary to take the child to a safe place. The prince promised to take care of this while the girl dealt with everything else. The blonde suggested that the bride had a lot to discuss with the nobles. Serena straightened her ruined hair and agreed with the guy's statements. The girl explained that she would have to start the discussion with a blow or even two. Sitting down next to the crying girl, Ricardo handed her a napkin and asked if she was okay. Taking a snow-white handkerchief, the little girl asked what would happen to her. Smiling, the prince asked the child not to worry and promised that she would be safe. The girl explained that she could not go alone. Pointing in the direction of his bride, the guy asked the little girl not to worry and explained that his lady was extremely influential. Still crying, the girl explained that that was not what she was talking about. Catching Ricardo's incomprehensible gaze, the little girl explained that there were still children there. The girl's hands were shaking violently. Hearing this, Serena glanced sideways at the baby. Having calmed down a little, the girl explained that many children were brought to this terrible place with her. Trying not to scare the child, the blonde asked if she knew where her friends were. With a trembling hand, the little girl pointed to a huge cage with many silhouettes. The children were desperate and did not even try to escape, but simply sat, awaiting their fate. The little girl claimed that she was told that if she passed that test, her father's huge debt would be cancelled. Trembling all over, Siren tried to convince herself that the imperial family had no idea about this place. It was difficult for the blonde to imagine that someone would do such horrific things. The girl asked where those damn nobles were who organized this atrocity. Looking at the bewildered crowd, the girl explained that if they did not answer, she would rip their heads off. The little girl asked who the lady was. The girl noticed that the heroine was powerful and a little scary. Nodding at his chosen one, the guy explained that she was his savior. Siren's golden hair fluttered in the light artificial wind. The prince shared that the girl was in no hurry to reciprocate his feelings. After the child asked again, the guy explained that it didn't matter. The little girl, taking the guy by the hand, ran to a closed cage with many children. Ricardo was horrified by what was happening. The prince realized that the children were kept in this hell for more than a couple of days. The blonde was aware that the children were probably shaking with fear of death without any hope of salvation. Ricardo's memories took him to that terrible moment when many experiments were performed on him. Without paying attention to his injuries and hellish pain, noticing the guy's confusion, the little girl tugged at his sleeve asking if he was okay. Leaning against the cage, another child asked his friend if he was still alive. The kid explained that he came to help his friend. The guy asked if his friend was really able to defeat the bull. Shaking his head, Connie explained that it was the house of noble birth who saved him. The boy promised that very soon the girl would come to free all the children. Approaching Zenith, the blonde asked if he knew about this arena. When she shook her head negatively, the girl asked if he really thought that she would believe it. The prince explained that from above it is impossible to notice every little detail from below. Smiling, the man suggested that the countess was of the same opinion. Zenith clarified that he was talking about what happened after the end of the war. The man recalled that the blonde locked herself in a mansion after the war, and claimed that she no longer cared about the affairs of the empire. Zenit claimed that on the way to the arena, he heard that all the children had given written consent to participate in the battle with the bull. The man assured that this did not give the girl the right to blame them. The prince explained that he allegedly knew that the girl was in the castle because of the dragon's heart. Siren, with fury in her eyes, assured that she didn't care about that stupid stone. The blonde asked the man not to make excuses and to take responsibility for what he had done. The countess explained that she was deeply disappointed. Turning around, the girl headed towards the place where the children were imprisoned. The prince explained that those imprisoned were taken to a safe place. Ricardo asked if the bride really wanted to leave everything like that. Sighing heavily, the blonde explained that destroying the Colosseum would not solve the problem. The guy asked what his bride was discussing with the duke. Clenching her fists tremblingly, the girl explained that she had killed many people in the war. Siren was sure that she would do more good if she did nothing. The blonde assured that she allegedly realized that inaction made her only an idle witness to even greater suffering. The countess explained that she did not know what to do. Turning to her groom, the girl asked why he was still with her. The siren reminded the guy that she destroyed his country and people. The prince, looking gloomy, explained that the lady had never been an idle witness. Ricardo explained that all this time the girl fought alone for a good cause. Lifting the bride's face, the guy looked into her faded gray eyes. Ricardo explained that he wanted to be with her as long as she was by his side. The prince tenderly reached out to the bride to kiss her. Moving his hand away, the girl explained that he managed to deceive her for a few moments. Serena explained that she was able to feel like a good person. The prince asked whether it was really so difficult to believe. Ricardo reminded the girl that she saved the child, took the time to listen to Lady Olivia, and stood up for Lady Laura. The blonde recalled that the heroine had previously saved him. Smiling, the guy reminded the bride that she did everything for a good cause. Serena explained that she still did not understand what he meant when he spoke about some kind of salvation. The prince explained that thanks to her, he could finally do what he wanted and live freely outside the laboratory. Serena explained that the guy had to thank his quick thinking. The blonde asked her fiancé to send all the rescued children to her estate. The guy asked what she was going to do with them. Ricardo explained that there were many more small victims than he had originally expected. Smiling, the countess explained that she was going to arrange a grand celebration for the children. Many different sweets were on the table. Smiling, Serena invited the rescued child to take whatever he wanted. The countess explained that this was all prepared especially for him by her chief cook. The girl looked with admiration at the many different treats. The blonde created that due to the fact that she had not seen children for a long time, the rescued baby turned out to be quite cute. Looking at the savior, the baby trembled. Connie still saw the girl as a monster. Very embarrassed, the little girl explained that she really didn't need anything. Serena asked the little girl what this excessive politeness was all about. Tightly gripping the hem of her dress, the little girl explained that she was very afraid of getting the table dirty. Connie timidly explained that she and her family had no money to compensate. The countess was surprised that all the other children agreed to stay at her estate, but the girl she saved still insisted that she wanted to return home. Serena realized that the baby could not be convinced with food. The girl realized that she would have to speak directly to Connie. The countess explained that she had heard that the girl's younger brother was supposedly ill. Clutching the hem of her dress tightly, the little girl explained that this was why her family needed money. The girl has already learned that the savior gave her family the amount that she should have received after the battle with the bull. Connie insisted that if the problem was fixed, she wanted to go home. The blonde explained to the baby that this was impossible and was her order. Serena asked the girl if she really wanted to return to the people who sold her to pay for the treatment of her second child. Tears welled up on Connie's face. Lending a helping hand, the countess asked why the little girl and her brother shouldn't live with her. The blonde suggested that the girls consider this a service for which she could pay much later. Connie asked if she could consider the offer. Having answered positively, the blonde invited the baby to eat dessert. Serena invited the girl to take him with her. The baby had already managed to hide several treats, because she had not eaten properly for a long time. The girl hesitantly tried a small piece of cake. Connie had tears in her eyes. She assured that it was very tasty. Smiling, the countess explained that she wanted the girl in the future to help a child like herself at the moment. Serena explained that the baby could calmly think about this in her estate until she grew up. With tears of happiness in her eyes, the girl thanked her savior. Rico told his bride that she was fighting for a good cause, but in reality, the girl was only looking for a piece of humanity in her heartless body. The blonde was glad that some of her actions really helped others achieve a bright future. Thanks to the prince's reasoning, Siren realized that this was not such a bad way to live until she became a normal person. A small lotus petal fell into an elegant tea mug. With a slight touch of the petal, circles began to spread across the tea. After taking a sip of a strong drink, Zenith listened to Eric. The blonde was furious that the Countess was able to turn the casino and arena upside down. Sighing heavily, the brunette explained that he understood everything correctly. Eric asked how his ex-girlfriend found out about the secret place. The blonde recalled that they managed to keep the girl in the dark all the time. Zenith assumed that Prince Ricardo knew about the bull arena. The blonde noted that it was very suspicious that the girl was present during the incident with the dragon heart. And immediately after that, she suddenly found out about the arena. The blonde was carefully reading some documents. Eric noted that such coincidences were not enough to draw any conclusions. The guy asked the brunette to just watch Siren. With a bow, the man accepted His Highness's order. Zenith asked the gentleman what to do with their marriage. Sighing heavily, the blonde explained that with the current state of affairs they could only pacify the Countess's anger by approving the marriage. Bowing, the man apologized to His Highness. The blonde explained that it wasn't his fault. His Highness suggested that everything had taken too long. Eric explained that even without the arena incident, they would have had to approve their marriage around this time. The blonde explained that he still saw one problem. Events are transported back a few months to the banquet in honor of Prince Ricardo's welcome. The blonde was very alarmed by the conversations while he was drinking wine. The girls gathered around the prince with delight, wondering if he really was the Countess's partner at the first dance. Smiling, Ricardo assured that she had done him an honor. The girls looked at the handsome man with loving eyes. Eric was very alarmed that the Prince of Arinia went out onto the balcony with Serena and returned alone. The blonde was very tense, which the two were discussing given the guy's pleased appearance. Baring his teeth, Eric realized that his opponent was just the prince of a destroyed kingdom. Bowing, the foreign prince greeted His Highness. Smiling, Eric explained to the guy that he was the only one who received the honor of dancing with the first sword of the Empire. Don't count him out. His Highness explained that such an opportunity does not come twice and asked to appreciate the girl. Bowing, Ricardo thanked His Highness. The blonde assured that from now on he would be given a much greater honor. Eric, approaching the guy, suggested that time would tell how long he would remain so confident in himself.